Course is the most beautiful racetrack in America, hands down.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to the breeding stock sale. Book one. Good to have you back with us.
And welcome in. It's week 2 of the Keeneland look ahead for this 2022 spring meet. I'm Jeremy Plonk from Horse Player Now. Great to be with you. And as we get set for a second week at Keeneland, you look at that crowded schedule we had last week. The Wood Memorial, the big day at Aqueduct, the Santa Anita Derby on the West Coast. Keeneland had its huge day. Record handle on Saturday for the Bluegrass Stakes Day. Thanks to all the fans for sending it in out there. Now you turn ahead to week 2 of the season, and it still has an all-star kind of feel. We've got a big week coming up for you this week at Keeneland, and we're going to talk about some of the major races to come. We've got the Maker's Mark Mile on Friday, the Jenny Wiley on Saturday, the Lexington also on Saturday. There's no racing on Sunday with the Easter week, so we've got a 4-day week to come, and it's going to be a great week of action, all starting with the Wednesday card. I'm looking forward to going through those 8 races with you. If this is your first time watching the Keeneland look ahead, we try to give you a big picture look at the race card and how to approach it and attack it, and give you your first look at tomorrow's racing. We're here at 8:30 Eastern every night before the next day's race card. Of course, you can tune in to today at Keeneland, 11:30 Eastern with Scott and Gabby. They'll take you through the race day information. They'll have updated scratches and changes by then. We give you the look ahead for those of you handicapping at home, and welcome you into my home office here as we handicap at Horse Player Now. So a lot to talk about this Wednesday card, but let's go back and recap a little bit what we saw in week number 1, where the jockeys were really dominant at the top of the standings. Flavien Prat, the Frenchman from California, new to the scene here full-time at Keeneland. He made an immediate impact with 7 victories. Irad Ortiz Jr., the champion jockey from Florida and New York, what a dominant week he had. Both of these guys are back on the Wednesday card. I believe 9 mounts between the two of them on Wednesday, so they're here, and they're going to be tough to knock off. Tyler Gaffalione, last year's champion jockey at Keeneland, with 40 victories over the course of the 2 meets. He's off to a good start, too, with 5 victories. Irad and Prat, though, right at the top. The interesting thing about Flavien Prat is, you think foreign jockey and known for his turf reputation. He was 7 for 15 on the dirt, won 3 stakes races opening week, lost all 6 turf mounts. Now, don't expect that to stay the way the entire meet. Flavien's going to win some races on the turf, but it goes to show what a skilled dirt rider he is as well. Fabulous ride that he put on Zandon to win the Bluegrass on Saturday. It was on full display then. It'll be on full display all meet long, but I thought that was very interesting in terms of his breakdown between dirt and turf. Trainers opening week, we had a smorgasbord of 3-time winners, those being Brad Cox, Todd Pletcher, Wesley Ward, and Brendan Walsh. You expect Cox, Pletcher, and Ward to be near the top of the standings at Keeneland. For Brendan Walsh, he won 3 races on the Saturday card, all early. He had brothers, Prevalence, and his half-brother also won on the card. So it was a good day for Godolphin and Brendan Walsh on Saturday. He's got 3 victories. You don't expect Walsh to compete in numbers for the leading trainer title at Keeneland, but certainly Cox, Pletcher, Ward could be in that discussion throughout the course of the meet. Last year, we saw the fall meet, I believe, come down to the very last race between Brad Cox and Wesley Ward. So no surprise there in the trainer standings. The one surprising thing about the trainers when you talk Wesley Ward is he lost both juvenile races he was in last week. He lost one on Friday, and he lost one on Sunday. He won with his older horses. He had a great opening week. He had the big stakes win with Golden Pal in the turf sprint. He won 3 turf sprints in all. But it was strange to see Ward go 0 for 2 in 2 races, and he had a double entry in one of them. So he's 0 for 3 in numbers, but he lost both turf races, or both 2-year-old races. We'll get a chance to see him right off the bat, though, in race number 1 on the Wednesday card. So we'll see if Wesley Ward can get off that schneid just a little bit, and we'll talk about some interesting numbers with those as well as we get set to talk about this Wednesday card. As far as the Bluegrass Stakes, we want to put a bow on this. The Bluegrass winner, of course, Zandon. The runner-up, Smile Happy. They look very comfortable for the Kentucky Derby in terms of the current point standings. The Kentucky Derby points chase, Zandon's number 2 right now with 114. Epicenter of the Louisiana Derby leads that points race. Smile Happy, the runner-up. He didn't run as big a race as I thought he would in the Bluegrass Stakes, but he still ran well. He put away Emmanuel, the third-place finisher, and the others, despite a wide trip on the clubhouse turn. But I was a little bit disappointed in the performance from Smile Happy. I think he has superstar ability, but I'm not sure he's gotten supremely better at 3 than he was at 2 when we last saw him, when we saw him debut at Keeneland, when we saw him win the Kentucky Jockey Club. So I really want to watch the training for Smile Happy. He's got to train like a past Derby winner. He's got to look like the goods in training to make me think he's going to move forward. Zandon, on the other hand, is very progressive. He's moving the right way. He's got a good running style from off the pace, but doesn't have to be too far back. Got a great ride from Flavian Pratt. We certainly saw that on Saturday. So Zandon looks comfortable in the standings. Rattle and Roll's kind of on the outside looking in right now. The top 20-point players will get into the gate for the Derby. And also Ethereal Road was a little bit too close to the pace. I was surprised he was that close to the pace. He's a drop-back one-run closer. But as I thought going into the Bluegrass, Ethereal Road might be a better Kentucky Derby horse than Bluegrass horse. Just the way the race set up, the 1 1/8. He's kind of got a little tricky feel to him, I think, if Wayne Lucas can get Ethereal Road into the Kentucky Derby. Not to win the thing, but certainly in the Derby, when you're playing tries and supers, you're trying to find a 40-1 shot to somewhere hit on that ticket. Ethereal Road could be that kind of horse if he can get in on the points. That's going to take a little bit of work to do so. But that's the recap from what we saw in the Bluegrass and what it means looking forward as we've got a couple weeks now until the Kentucky Derby. Let's take a look at the big picture for our Wednesday program. If this is the first time that you're checking out our podcast here as we do the Keeneland Look Ahead, the big picture is the way I sketch out the races. Here's the race card. We've got 8 races on the program. Where do the pick 4s and 5s begin? Where does the pick 6? Where are your turf races? No Keeneland Turf Pick 3 today or on Thursday. We don't have 3 turf races on either one of those cards, so Keeneland Turf Pick 3 will resume on Friday on that big Maker's Mark mile card. Where do the key plays come from? Look at your handicapping in advance. Know where the horses are that you really like. How do they set up with the sequences? That's how you plan your strategy. That's how you attack as a horse player. For me, I like field sizes, obviously. I'm looking for exotic wagers. I need losing tickets to pay for winning tickets. That's what pari-mutuel is all about. So the bigger field size is generally going to create the bigger payouts. And races 2, 4, and 5 got 11-horse fields, 12-horse fields. We've got our chances in 2, 4, and 5 today with the largest field sizes. And notice the construction of the card when you have 8 races. You know, a pick 5 is the final 5 on the card, the first 5 on the card. Well, there's an overlap. Races 4 and 5 both include races that are in the early and late pick 5. So if you're playing pick 5s, you've got to look at races 4 and 5 as major players in what you're doing. And also race number 5 is a swing race in the pick 4 because the pick 4 starts in race number 2, as you see, with the P4 designation. Races 2, 3, 4, and 5 will be the early pick 4. And then the late pick 4 starts in race number 5, so 5, 6, 7, and 8. So race number 5 is part of 4 sequences. It's part of the early pick 4. It's part of the late pick 4. It's part of the early and late pick 5s. It's also part of the pick 6. I'm not a pick 6 player personally, but if you are, that means it's part of 5 sequences. So you've got to really spend your time in race number 5 doing your deepest dig and handicapping. Now, I've handicapped the card ahead, and my best bet today happens to come in race 5. What does that do? Well, that puts my antenna up. You know, I'm thinking, okay, the horse I like the most on the card at the best price, I've got a 9-2 value play in race number 5. How can I hit this horse 7 ways to Sunday? That's how you have big days, right? I mean, it's one thing to say, okay, I like this horse. It's going to pay $11, and your $20 win bet gets you $110 back, and you had a nice day. But when you can maximize that opinion and you can hit that horse not only in the win pool, but in the exotics, in the multi-races, the singles, and connect around them, this is how you have a day that makes your meet for no larger investment. So you're not looking to, you know, just because you love a horse in a sequence doesn't mean you have to bet more money in denominations than you would normally in the day. It just means you need to pile all your Easter eggs into the same basket. And then when you hit, you have that kind of blockbuster kind of day. So back to the big picture in race number 5, that's a race where we really have to set our tone and really make our day. For me, I'm not really wild, and you'll hear as I handicap the races, not really wild about races 1 and 2 on the card. So from a pick 4 or pick 5 standpoint, they're going to be races where I spread out a little bit more, and I need to stay patient. So I've got my bullets. My first alluring play doesn't come until race number 3. I know I love race number 5, so I've got to get involved there. The other ones on the card, like I said, 2 and 4 have the nice big field sizes. So let's just look how the sequence is set up. The big fields are in races 2, 4, and 5. Well, the pick 4 is races 2, 3, 4, 5. The best bet today should be the early pick 4, races 2, 3, 4, and 5. They have the biggest field sizes. I've got my first alluring play in race number 3. I've got my best bet in race number 5. If I'm going to have a good day on Wednesday, that early pick 4 is where I have to attack, and that's how I have to go after it. And like I've shown you every single time, you don't need a fancy graphic. Take something like this, scribble down the races, see where you're at, see what your sequences are, mark your best bets, circle the ones that you like, and try to set up the schedule for how you're going to approach the day of racing. We also, on this sequence, or on this podcast, we also like to show you the selectors box from Keeneland.com, the handicappers consensus. So let me pull that up for you as we bring up the handicappers consensus for on Wednesday's card. These are our public handicappers at Keeneland.com: Scott Hazelton, Tom Leach, myself, Gabby Gaudette, Kim Nelson. We go full card picks, free, easy to download, print, if you will. But I bring them up here on the podcast so that you can get the big picture sense of how the public handicappers look at a race. When you see multiple horses all liked by the same handicapper, you can almost assume that these horses are going to get bet. If you were a handicapper who's got a horse kind of on an island where I like a horse that nobody else likes, that's a great situation to be in. Now, if I look across my races on Saturday, I don't get that until the last race when I have Mercy Warren on top and nobody else has Mercy Warren as their number 1 selection. That's like the first time where I'm kind of out on my own there. So when I'm trying to strategize late in the card, I might be able to get a decent price on Mercy Warren because the other handicappers aren't on them. And just by percentage, if the public handicappers aren't on them, a lot of times the public wouldn't be as well. But if you see like in race number 7, where Stage Raider is the top pick by all the public handicappers except one, that's a 4 out of 5. This horse is going to be solidly picked by the public, and we all know that. We're looking forward to seeing Stage Raider. In fact, Stage Raider, one of the headliners on this card in race number 7, a mile and a 16th allowance co-feature. Stage Raider is the younger half-brother to 2018 Triple Crown winner Justify. So there's a lot to like about that one. And when we saw him last at Keeneland, I know it was on an off track, but he was absolutely devastating. If we happen to get an off track on Wednesday, let's hope Mother Nature smiles upon us with a nice day. Temp's supposed to be in the 70s. There is a chance of some showers, but if it does happen to come up wet, that's certainly not going to affect Stage Raider in the allowance feature race number 7. Okay, so let's get to some handicapping here as we proceed through on the Wednesday card and take a look. You already know kind of my big picture strategy, where I'm coming out and where I'm swinging on particular horses. So let's get to work here on the Wednesday program where we've got 2-year-olds in race number 1. This is our 3rd baby race of the meet. We've seen Wesley Ward go 0 for 2. We don't expect that to last much longer. Twice since we went back to dirt in 2015, Wesley Ward has started the meet 0 for 2 at Keeneland. The first time that happened was in 2018. He ended up winning 10 of the last 11, I believe it was, 2-year-old races at the meet. He can turn the faucet back on, folks. It also happened last year. In fact, Ward lost the first 4 2-year-old races last year. We have a short memory and think it's, Invincible Superman sometimes. But last year in the 2021 spring meet, Wesley Ward lost the first 4. He ended up winning 6 of the last 7 offered at the meet. So he can turn it around. And don't expect because Wesley's lost a couple that you're going to get this big price. His slump buster last year after starting 0 for 4 was a 1-5 shot Chi-Town Lady. So the public stayed with him, 20 cents on the dollar. Do not expect that all of a sudden they're not going to bet Wesley Ward's 2-year-olds. It's going to happen. He's got a couple of them in race number 1. He's got Alibi Ike, the 3 horse, and he also has Olchek, the 7, named for my good friend Eddie Olchek, and my workmate Edzo is the namesake of this horse. I texted him the other day to ask him, and he's nervous, and he said it's a lot of pressure to have a horse named after you. So we will see how Olchek fares in the debut. He's the son of Nyquist. This is a $150,000 Nyquist colt purchased at Keeneland September in 2021. So Olchek comes with some intentions. We'll see. His workout came at Turfway Park, though, and that's what kind of concerns me with these Ward horses, Alibi Ike and Olchek. Both worked at Turfway last time. Of the 64 baby races we've had in the spring meet, going back to that dirt transformation where we had our first spring meet in 2015 on the new dirt, Of those 64 races, 53 of the 2-year-old winners were horses who worked at Keeneland. And it's usually been a general toss for me. When I see a horse with a non-Keeneland work, I just draw an X through them because, look, we don't have a lot of information on the 2-year-olds. When you get a stat that's 53 for 64, that's pretty darn reliable. So maybe you take a chance against the Wesleys again. And you say, oh, he can't keep losing. Again, he started 0 for 4 last year. That was an anomaly last year, and then he turned it on. But I'm going to swing against the Wards in the opener. I'm going to take a little shot with a 4 Rivet. This is a horse who, is probably expected to be fast. Rivet's a horse who only, $5,000 sire competitive edge, but at the Texas sale, they paid $70,000. Generally, when they spend more on a horse than the pedigree suggests, there's usually some intent there that the horse might have a little bit of ability as far as the natural foot. So I'm going to take a shot with Rivet for trainer Steve Asmussen. Steve won a couple races. I believe it was in 2017 off the top of my head in the database. I'd have to go back and double check that. He won a couple 2-year-old races in 2017 in the spring, but this is not his MO. He typically doesn't have horses here. So as I told you in the big picture when I was looking at my plays for the day, the first Alluring play for me didn't come till race number 3 because, again, I'm taking a little bit of a stand against the Wesley Ward horses, for the conflicting Turfway workouts, but are you confident betting against 2 Wesley Wards? No. Again, Steve Asmussen, this is not his thing to bring 2-year-olds here in the spring and have a ton of success or a ton of starters, but obviously we know he's a great 2-year-old trainer. He usually has them ready for the Churchill meet in May, and then you see Steve in May and June with the 2-year-olds just rock it at Churchill. So he's capable. I'm going to take a shot with Rivet in the opener, but again, it's not a very confident pick. Race number 2 on the program as we turn the page, a mile and an eighth maiden claimer on the Wednesday card. And, this is maiden claimers going 9 furlongs. When I say maiden claimers are routing in a race, going 2 turns, no maiden claimer really wants to be in a route race. They just end up there. That's kind of my saying and my theory is, if you're fast, you've already graduated. If you're slow, you drop into the maiden claiming ranks. And if you're really slow, you keep running far enough that you're competitive with other horses that don't have a great turn of foot. So you've got maiden claimers going 9 furlongs in here. Again, that puts my trust level down low, but we did say races 2, 4, and 5 had the biggest field sizes. Race 2 is going to kick off the early pick 4. It's part of the pick 5, obviously, on the early pick 5, but at a mile and an eighth, an 11-horse field, I'm not going to be super confident in here outside of one horse. This is a typical do you single or spread kind of situation, like if you're playing the multi-race wagers. I almost always lean towards the single over the spread because it's more economical, and I'd rather hit a trustworthy ticket many times than just spread and hope that I land something in terms of a big whopper. But the horse who's the single or spread option is the 8 Nepotism. He drops in class for a Jonathan Thomas barn that's absolutely high percentage. Thomas had a couple horses run here opening week that were competitive and ran well. This is a maiden special weight horse who's been knocking on the door down at Gulfstream, at Aqueduct and Belmont last year, and now drops in for the maiden claiming tag. And the reason, too, that I put him over the top is the Union Rags pedigree. Union Rags had 7 winners last year on the Keeneland Dirt, most of any sire. So good pedigree, dropping in class. You wonder why you give up on a horse like this for $30,000, though. They cost $210,000. But I guess after 7 tries, it's time to just kind of get a victory. But this is a horse who's been competitive in races tougher than this. And so Nepotism's probably the one to beat. If you do want to spread your net, there are other options in here. Tricolor, Make Way, Big Paper. I have it 8 over to 3, 1, and 7. Again, from a pick 4 or pick 5 standpoint, the 8's going to be a big favorite in here. If you trust the 8 in the pick 5, maybe you spread in the pick 5, and this is like a little bit different strategy, but maybe you spread in the pick 5 because of, do you want to trust this horse on the class drop? But in the pick 4, you actually get to see the horse pre-race, you get to see the wagering, the betting, and what's going on. So if this is kind of like a little horse you're curious about a fire sale, dropping him in class, maybe for pick 4 purposes, you wait, and then you get to see him pre-race. If you like what you see in the paddock, the warm-up, trust the commentators on the simulcast feed and etc. If you get a good feel for this horse, then he's a single then for the pick 4. Like I was saying, races 2, 4, and 5 had the biggest field sizes. My strong opinions were in races 3 and 5, so I'm really leaning on the pick 4. So for me to get involved in the pick 5 today, maybe I don't want to do that in tomorrow's pick 5 on Wednesday because of some of that uncertainty, and we don't know what we're going to do with the Ward horses. Do we really trust the Asmussen pick? So wait for race number 2. jump head first into the pick 4. That's the way I'm going to strategize it. But I don't tell you to pick and play the way that I do. I want you to think like I do, not play like I do, but think like I do, so that when they match your opinions, you're attacking them in the right way. You don't have to listen to my opinions on which horse will win a race. We're all in the crystal ball business here trying to predict the future. You may do it better than I do. But as far as the strategy goes, I always have a strategy when I go into a day, and I want you to think that way as well, so you can maximize your dollars and your entertainment value when you're playing the races. Let's check in with the Keeneland selectors box here and just kind of see, Nepotism's a horse that we said was he ended up my top pick by default, and he's the top pick on 3 of the 5 handicappers. Scott, Tom, and I all have that one. Nepotism, the second choice for Gabby and Kim. So there's not a large swath here in thinking that this race goes 10 different ways. Pretty much everybody's got it 8, 3, and 1. Tom's got the 6 sprinkled in there, Brody's Fly, but maybe you don't need to get any deeper than 2 or 3 in race number 2. As we look ahead to the picks for race number 3, there are 3 of us on top with Delta Gamma Cats, and this is where I come up with one of my key plays of the early part of the program. Again, my first alluring play was in race number 3, and I say stay patient. Don't overdo it in the first couple races as you wait and try to attack on the card. Number 5, Delta Gamma Cats, is my top pick in here in race number 3. This horse won a 30,000 non-3 type race here, the optional claiming event back in October. Won nicely and came from off the pace. Has since gone on to run in some tougher races and some stakes at Turfway. Draw a line through the Queen Stakes and the Wishing Well, and the form looks really good. That's what we call soiled form. This horse got blown out in 2 stakes races, but if you take 2 stakes off for Delta Gamma Cats, second, first, third, second, first, second, first, second. This horse has not run a bad race other than those 2 stakes races when completely overmatched. But when that soiled form comes in 2 of the last 3 races, the speed figures are no good when you get blasted. The margin of victories or margin of defeats, 12, 15 lengths, that can help your price a little bit. That people just don't overlook the last out speed figures and the distance, but this horse had no chance in those 2 races, a 30-1 proposition in both of them. So Delta Gamma Cats back in starter allowance company, I think fits really nice under Rafael Bejarano. He had a nice return meet here last fall. Bejarano back to Keeneland and was riding really well here. So I'm all over Delta Gamma Cats in race number 3, and I'm going to use that as one of my keys, and I'm going to just lay on that horse as a single for pick 4 and pick 5 purposes in the race 3 starter allowance. 4th on the card is a maiden special at 6.5, as everything on the main track through the first 5. So the first 5 races on the card make up the early pick 5. They're all main track races. One of the things I want to talk about is what we saw last week on the main track at Keeneland. Only 20% of the winners on the main track during opening weekend, 3 of the 15 winners, 1 out of 5, 20%, led at the half-mile call. That's usually closer to a third. 35% of the horses at Keeneland on the main track led at the half-mile call of the race. So that was way down. But don't overemphasize that. Don't look at it as, there's something going on track-wise, because we had weather, right? We had a lot of weather, a lot of moisture, drying out racetracks, different degrees of slop and depth to them. And we also had a different kind of horse. Opening weekend, a lot of allowance horses, a lot of stakes horses, a lot of high-quality horses. As we get further into the Keeneland meet and the blue bloods become a little less blue, a different shade of blue, if you will, and we get more common races, common class of horses, you're going to see the speed come back. And when we get a drier racetrack, hopefully, obviously, when things tighten up and we get a drier racetrack, speed is going to be back and be very important at Keeneland. That could start as early as Wednesday. And that's why I bring it up when I talk about 5 races to start the pick 5, all on the main track. If you thought speed wasn't great opening week, I think you got to just kind of take that out of your memory, watch a race or 2, jump in. But I think the front-running speed will be back in very short time. Race number 4 at Keeneland on Friday, as we said, was a 6.5 furlong maiden special. This is a swing race. Race number 4 is part of the early pick 5, part of the early pick 4, and part of the late pick 5. It's in everything except the late pick 4, essentially. So this was an important race in your handicapping. I thought this was the spread race, though. Of the ones early in the card, we talked about, maybe in the second we just hone in on the class dropper Nepotism. Love the horse in the third, top choice there in the third, the would be Delta Gamma Cats. I think Delta Gamma Cats dropping on the stakes is very solid. Fourth race, I think, is where you want to spread your wings. You got some good options from good barns in this maiden special. I ended up with the 1, Be Like Water. Let's see what the other folks did in here. We also have Scotty's on the 1, Be Like Water. A couple different picks for 9, Changing Lady, who's my third pick in here, Charging Lady, I should say, and Ride the Plan. My second choice is a top pick by Kim Nelson. So the 3 I got in here, the 1, 4, and 9, are represented across the board by the various public handicappers. And I also think the 6 and the 3 are options in here, Little Blaze and Steal My Sunshine. So Steal My Sunshine's Wesley Ward, ton of early speed. There does look to be a potential, just shakedown between the 3, Steal My Sunshine, and the 4, Ride the Plan, coming off a very fast race at Fairgrounds last time. I mean, the 3 and the 4 could really hook up here and set it up for a closer. 6.5 furlongs isn't a typical closer's distance, but the way this race shakes out, and anytime the 2 principal speed horses in a race are drawn right next to each other, I tend to think that's going to speed the race up. So I think they're going to go fast, Ride the Plan, Steal My Sunshine. Either could win. They're certainly capable of winning, but I took Be Like Water to come from just a little bit off the pace under John Velasquez. I think this horse will get the setup, will be down on the rail, hopefully can get out and make the final move. But 1, 4, 9, 6, and 3, I think, are all viable options in race number 4. One of the swing races, I think, that you want to spread in. The other swing race is race number 5, and here's where I'm going to get very focused. This is one of my top plays of the day, and it is Underhill's Tab. Underhill's Tab, the 7 horse, one of my favorite handicapping angles of all. This horse is laying off, turning back in distance, and firing bullets in the morning. I call it LTB, layoff, turn back, bullets. Alstall Jr.'s trainee, Underhill's Tab, the 7, has all 3 working for him. This is the horse who was runner-up in the Sugar Bowl Stakes sprinting, then went long in January in Allowance Company and backed up. Now back to the sprint distance, working sharp in the morning. I think CJ Hernandez will have this one just a tick off the pace. I don't think Underhill's Tab will have to get to the front. I think those stalking, pressing trips that Underhill's Tab had in the races down at Fairgrounds will fit very nicely here. Kind of first over, make a move, and I like Underhill's Tab a lot as my key play. 9-2 in the morning line. It's the swing race of the pick 4, the pick 5, everything cooking through race number 5. And if we can get anywhere close to that 9-2 on Underhill's Tab, I would be very happy. I would take as low as 5-2, to be honest. I think this horse is the horse to beat. Variety, the 12, is the one you've got to watch for sure. Debut winner for Todd Pletcher at Belmont last September. Comes back off the bench by Into Mischief, an outstanding sire at Keeneland, especially in these sprint distances. But anything by Into Mischief has to be respected over this track. Variety's the 12 horse is going to be farther to the outside than Underhill's Tab. So, maybe those 2 hook up into the far turn, and CJ Hernandez gets to cut the corner going 6 furlongs with Underhill's Tab to the inside of Variety. I think that's the horse you've got to beat. The others in here I really don't think will shape up with them. Number 8, La Belleza Negra, easy for me to say, is one coming in from Turfway, I think worth a look. A good third here in the debut back in April in a baby race last year. This horse is by Cairo Prince, and the Cairo Prince has run well at Keeneland, especially going long, but during 6 furlongs, certainly capable. La Belleza Negra, the 8, would be the other one for exotic use underneath. But on top, I am all in on Underhill's Tab, number 7, in race number 5. If he wins, I've got a good shot to start swinging around on those pick 4s and pick 5s. There are so many common races. As we mentioned, in the key play number 3, race number 5 is a 4 sequencer. It's part of the early, late pick 4s, early, late pick 5s. So it's a race that if you have an opinion, these are the days you have to play. So that's where we're going to line up and tee it up. Race number 6 on the 8 race card on Wednesday at Keeneland is an allowance race, 1 mile and an eighth. It's the only scheduled turf race. No turf pick 3. Again, we have a chance of some showers, but we ran on some moisture on the turf course opening week. I would expect that we'll be on the grass, but if we're not, certainly check Keeneland.com for any updated scratches and changes, and be sure to check with Scott and Gabby on social media, bet Keeneland on social media, at Keeneland Racing. They'll always keep you up to date with all the changes going on. Only turf race on the card, though. I've got number 6, Aviano. These Gulfstream horses have been extremely tough in these kind of races over the past dozen years or so. Our Keeneland database goes back to 2006. And the Gulfstream horses on the turf going 1 mile and an eighth in Allowance Company have 33 wins. No other circuit has more than 5. 33-5. Now, I know the Fairgrounds turf horses, I think, are stronger than they have been in past years. And maybe the Gulfstream horses aren't just quite as strong as they have been in past turf winters. As we've talked about, there were fewer races at Gulfstream this year with the Tapeta surface coming into play. So while the Gulfstream horses might take a little step back and the Fairgrounds horses assert themselves a little bit more, a 33.5 hedge is pretty significant. And so at 1.125 miles, the longer they go, classy allowance horses like this. I'm with the 6 Aviano, Todd Pletcher, Irad Ortiz, coming out of a Gulfstream race, a good third-place finish last time out. Plenty of pedigree by Medaglia d'Oro. This was a $775,000 purchase. I think Aviano is going to be strong in here, and the one to beat, Land Biscuit for Bill Mott, also comes in from Gulfstream. So I'm going to lean on the Gulfstream horses, 6 and 8 in race number 6. The 7-horse Winworthy is a deep closer for Joe Sharp. This is one coming out of the Fairgrounds races, and Joe Sharp's long-winded 1.125 horses on the main track, on the turf. These longer distances, Joe Sharp has had some nice winners over the years at Keeneland, so keep an eye on Winworthy. This horse is going to be way back early. They're going to need some pace. This is a deep, deep closer. It needs a lot to go right, but did win over this course. Winworthy won here last year last October to break the maiden, came from 12th to win. You need a little bit of luck when you're coming from that far back, but Winworthy, ridden by Tyler Gaffleone, certainly can't argue that. But I'll take Irad Ortiz, Aviano, Todd Pletcher. I think they've got them over the barrel, as they say, in race number 6. 7th on the card is the 1.16 mile allowance back on the main track, and this is where we have the headline horse of the day. We've got Justify's kid brother, Stage Raider, back for Chad Brown, the son of Pioneer of the Nile, out of Stage Magic. Blinkers on for the first start back at Keeneland since the April 21 campaign when he broke his maiden by 10 3/4 lengths, as we mentioned earlier. He's coming out of a tough race in his comeback. He went to the sidelines in May last year, didn't make it back to the races until March, and when he did, he ran into a horse named Prevalence, who was another prodigy type early in the season last year and who was on the comeback. We've seen Prevalence make that comeback complete as he won the Commonwealth Stakes here out of this same race in March last out that Stage Raider finished 9 lengths in behind Prevalence, who dominated that day by almost 5. Prevalence came back, stamped himself, ran Nashville into the ground, and drew off in winning the Commonwealth Stakes this weekend. So this is a really strong company line at Stage Raider comes out. I think he's the horse to obviously beat him this spot. Winter Pool, the other Chad Brown in here. Chad's got 2. Winter Pool's by Curlin. The Curlins going long on the main track at Keeneland have been outstanding. Todd Pletcher's won so many with them. Malathot last year, just Nest the other day in the back-to-back Ashlands. So a Curlin going long at Keeneland, you always have to respect. Winter Pool ran second in a mile race here in the fall meet, so we know he likes the track pedigree to keep running on longer at the 1.16 mile. Winter Pool's the other one to watch in here, so I think it's a Chad Brown exacta. I think he's got him. The 4 and the 9, take one of the Browns. If you're looking for pick 4, pick 5 play, if you had to single one of them, I prefer Stage Raider, but this might be a situation where you want to look at a double up and use both horses in race number 7. 8th and final on the card. Let's go back and see how the public handicappers have this one doped out for the finale. As I told you earlier, this was where we had my on an island horse, if you will, Mercy Warren. Mercy Warren, I'm the only one who's got him on top. Santa Elena is picked on top by a couple, Dream Music by a couple, and you see underneath Mercy Warren, those are the 2 that I like. So certainly no doubt about it, my cohorts in the selectors box are on similar horses to me, but I like the fact that I'm going with Mercy Warren on top on my own. This one comes off a maiden claiming win last time out for Cherie DeVoe. Cherie's horses tend to run well. They get a little more into the form cycle. And I think this one, third start, the debut wasn't much. The second start was much better on the drop in class. And now we run in a protected race in the starter 50,000 level. What that means is the horses had to have run for $50,000 or less to have broken their maiden the way that this one is set up. It's for horses that have only have one victory, and 50,000 or less is the max level. So Mercy Warren did everything you could, one for the $50,000 tag. And so I like that about him, and I think Mercy Warren is going to be a good shot in here to score back-to-back. And Brian Hernandez Jr. with the mount, that'll be my pick in the finale. Certainly not a case where it's a lead pipe cinch. I think the 4 and the 8 as my cohorts are on. I think this is a 9-horse field where 7, 4, and 8 should get you through the multi-race wagers and close out the Wednesday card at Keeneland. So we've got a big weekend to come, a lot of racing after this Wednesday card. Give you a reminder that the stakes races to come include Friday's Maker's Mark Mile, Saturday's Jenny Wiley, and Lexington. Maybe we'll see some horses try to get into the Triple Crown picture with the Lexington Stakes as the last chance to gather up some points. So that's going to wrap up this edition of the Keeneland Look Ahead. We'll be back again with you Wednesday night, looking ahead to the Thursday card. We've got a 9-race Thursday card. I've done the early handicapping on that, but we'll have that all honed in by tomorrow night. First post on Wednesday, 1 o'clock at Keeneland. Be sure to watch Today at Keeneland, starting each race morning at 11:30 a.m. with Scott Hazelton and Gabby Gaudette. On behalf of everybody at Keeneland and Horse Player Now, I'm Jeremy Plonk. Have a great night. Good luck in week 2 at Keeneland.